I'd like to call to order the July 24th, 2024 meeting of the Sebastian City Council. If you'll stand, please, for invocation by Deacon Bob Quinnell, and then the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Nunn.
Pray. Heavenly Father, author and preserver of all creation, we give you thanks for bringing us to this place tonight and for granting us the skills, knowledge, and resources to protect and enhance the lives and property of Sebastian and its citizens. Grant to us wisdom and perception to find solutions to problems and the serenity to consider the value of honest differences of opinion. Guide our thoughts and our actions to bring about your will for this community and return us safely home at the end of the day. Grant us peace in your loving arms and strength for the toils of the days to come. We also lift up to your grace all people in all walks of life and in all circumstances of living. Be with us all, we pray, in your holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Dodd?
Here.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Here.
Councilmember Jones?
Here.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Here.
And Councilmember Nunn?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, are there any agenda modifications that anyone can think of that they'd like to make to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, then the agenda has been approved by acclamation. All right, now we have kind of an award proclamation that Councilmember Nunn is going to do for his good friend Abigail Sullivan at this point in time. Come forward, ma'am. You going down too?
Yeah. Yes.
Once all of us go down there?
I want you all to come down, yes.
Actually, we're going to all come down there.
We are going to all come down. All right. How are you? Come over here. So, y'all can hear me okay? Okay, good. So, it's not always that we give a proclamation or something just for anybody, but it's important to understand Abigail. Abigail is probably one of the most involved young people you'll ever meet in understanding politics. Not involved in politics, but understanding politics. She's been an assistant, an aide to Casey DeSantis during one period. She was an assistant there. She is involved in the young government within the state. She takes complete understanding. And to make how real that is, when she got her driver's license, some of you might remember, the first place she drove was to the city council meeting. She wanted to go to the meeting and drive herself to the meeting. So it's pretty exciting, I believe. But so we're going to read this. She, by the way, did not have any idea this was coming. Proclamation recognizing Abigail Sullivan. Whereas taking an interest in local government at a young age can help you understand how decisions are made that affect your life, such as education, healthcare, and job opportunities. And whereas it empowers young adults to have a voice in shaping their future and the future of their community and country. And whereas attending local government meetings, such as city council meetings, allows young adults to learn about different perspectives, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. And whereas it also encourages active citizenship and fosters a sense of responsibility towards creating positive social change. Ultimately, being informed and engaged in local government can help the nation's youth become a more well-rounded and informed citizenry. And whereas for the last few years, Abigail Sullivan has been attending and providing meaningful input at Sebastian City Council meetings to become more involved in her community. Now, therefore, as she begins to continue her educational journey by leaving for college this fall, the Sebastian City Council recognizes her interest and contributions with the hope that after graduation, she will continue to look for ways to build a more inclusive and vibrant democracy for our nation's future. Adopted this 24th day of July 2024, signed by all 5 council members. She's going to be attending Patrick Henry College in Virginia, of course, because the home of the Constitution and democracy. But we've got some things in here, some T-shirts and other things, because we want her to take Sebastian with her and to live Sebastian while she's there. You're welcome. Yes, of course she does. Of course she wants to say something.
Well, thank you so much for this honor. I truly actually did not know this was coming, so thank you so much for that surprise. And I want to thank the staff for all of your hard work and everything that you do. It means a lot for the city, and I know that you all want to represent the citizens well and your constituents well, so I appreciate the effort that you put in. And I've witnessed that effort coming to these meetings and meeting you just around town and seeing all the wonderful things you all do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So let's get a picture. Can we get a picture with you and all 5 of us?
In the middle.
Are we going to do pictures?
Well, yeah, we'll do pictures with all 5 of us and her in the middle there. That's perfect. Thank you.
And in November of 2032, you'll probably get to vote for Abigail someplace. All right, brief announcements, Madam Vice Mayor.
Sure. This Saturday, July 27th, the Treasure Coast Waterway Cleanup will take place, meeting at the Main Street Boat Ramp from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Friday, August 2nd, the Sebastian Police Department has their back-to-school summer bash from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Barber Street Sports Complex. That'll be a good time. Friday, August 9th, Chamber of Commerce Grill Out Night. I've already seen the signs. From 5:30 to 8 p.m., Let's Fiesta is the theme. And then August 10th through the 17th, the 2024 primary election early voting will take place here in council chambers from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're at the public input. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to bring something to the attention of the council that is not in the agenda, please come forward. And did you fill out a speaker card?
I did, but it would be exempt anyway, and so she returned it back to me.
I'm sorry?
I did, but it would be exempt and she returned it to me. So I don't have a speaker card. Because
Mr. Mayor, the speaker cards are for quasi-judicial hearings?
Only?
Yes.
Oh, I'm happy to know that.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Good evening, Mayor Dodd, Vice Mayor Dixon, Councilman Jones, McPartland, and none. My name is Justin Knott, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you as a resident of the city of Sebastian for the past 20 years and change. I currently sit as a committee member for the Substance Awareness Center of the Indian River County, and I participate in the IRC Executive Committee, and I'm an advocate for Tobacco-Free Partnership of Indian River County. It is in this last role that I approach you this evening. In December of 2022, the Indian River County officially adopted Ordinance 2022-17 for tobacco-free public parks and beaches. Currently, no Indian River County municipalities have adopted this policy. Under Section 205.03 of IRC County Ordinances, subsection 28, it simply states in part, smoking in any public beaches or county-owned public parks shall be prohibited. While tobacco-free signs have been placed in some city parks, it is currently not enforced, and it lacks consistency in public settings. I had asked that Clerk Williams provide you with a hard copy of a sample resolution, the Model Florida Tobacco-Free Ordinance. I also had sent her earlier an email version of this that's in a Word version, so it's easier for you to actually look at that and make any sort of amendments if you want to use that as a guideline to go by. But predominantly, more importantly, in June of 2022, Governor DeSantis signed legislation that grants city and county governments the ability to ban smoking in public parks and beaches. This law could potentially impact all of the 67 counties within Florida and more than 400 city parks systems. This model ordinance that I provided you includes a number of provisions for local governments to consider in ordering the adoption of any sort of proclamation or resolution to this impact. So, a recent study in Broward County revealed a significant increase in self-compliance with appropriate signage. Just putting the sign-ups by themselves tends to reduce the impact of seeing people smoking in our public spaces. And where signage might have an added expense, there are currently funds available through Tobacco Free Florida and through the Bureau of Tobacco Free Florida. This signage is important as it helps alleviate the risk of the presence of secondhand smoke to our public, and it also will help alleviate the increased amount of litter that we're seeing. Our tobacco-free partnership of Indian River County is part of a statewide network of tobacco-free partnerships that are located in each county within Florida, with all of them working within their own communities to promote tobacco-free parks and beaches. The City of Sebastian has the opportunity to join other Florida counties and cities who have adopted local tobacco-free policies that promote healthy choices and healthy lifestyles. I request that the City of Sebastian adopt an ordinance for tobacco-free public parks. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Council, as our meeting notes provide, we can do a consensus as a result of public input to ask a charter officer to review a topic. Is there a consensus to ask the city manager to review the proclamation?
Yes.
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 All right. You got it, Brian? Okay, sounds good. Anyone else like to address the council on an item not on the agenda? Yes, sir.
August 16th is coming pretty quick, and that's when I'd like to see.
Could you, your name, please?
Pardon me?
Your name, please. I'm sorry.
I said Ron Mather, Sebastian.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say that. Thank you.
August 16th, we need more people to run for council. That being said, I'll support anybody that's not a mandator. And because I had 27 years of right to decide on what happened. I've been here since '96, so therefore 27 years happened here last July, and took away my right to choose. With that said, that's why I'm looking for the people that can hear this. Please get in your application for council. And before I get mandated to have Wi-Fi or cable TV. So, and I really appreciated seeing Jim Hill's editorial with Sebastian Daly. Hope you all saw it all on the referendum from 2 to 4 years. And I don't think I'd be looking forward to 4 years of mandates versus, 2's enough. So keep that in mind. That's the referendum. At least that was a referendum. The other one wasn't. It was mandated. Wiley here was a little disturbed. But that pretty much does it. And I'll be looking for the archives with Sebastian Daly, trying to see Jim's letter that he wrote. Hopefully y'all read it. And another thing, with the COVID being on the sideline or whatever, I'd like to know if council, I know the state gave you a choice to vote from afar. I don't know if you could have to be in council to vote versus voting from buses and stuff like that. So those are the important things to me, been on my chest, and I'm glad that you heard me out, and hopefully it's a robust voting time for us later on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Just as an aside, in our meeting policies, I didn't say anything then because I don't think he really crossed the boundary, but we don't have campaigning, political campaigning, within discussion during a meeting. So, and he didn't, I don't believe he crossed the boundary in political campaigning. So, but if anyone wants to come in and now talk about individuals running and campaigning, that's not allowed. We can't do it. The audience can't do it during the meeting. Okay, just want to make sure that was aware of that. People were aware of that. Okay. So, thank you. Anyone else want to address the council? All right. Anyone on Zoom? No? Okay.
There's no hands raised at this time.
All right. All right, council. We're on to the consent agenda. What's your pleasure on that?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Dixon,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
and Mayor Dodd.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any committee reports or announcements that I know of tonight, so we're on to public hearings. We're now, I'll say this again, I said it the last time before you come up. This is, no, this is not that, so we'll deal with this. This is ordinance number O-2411. You can read it?
Yeah. Ordinance number O-2411, second reading and public hearing. Request for small-scale comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment, St. Lucie Development Corporation, LDR, low-density residential, maximum 5 dwelling units per acre, to MDR, medium-density residential, maximum 10 dwelling units per acre. Transmittal 02411, staff report, exhibits, and minutes.
Okay, Dory, would you like to?
Good evening, Council. This is the second reading of Ordinance 2411. It's for a small-scale comprehensive plan future land use map amendment. The applicant is here tonight, the property owner, if you have any questions for him. If this is approved tonight, this will, in essence, amend the land use of the reference 20.38 acres, and it'll change the land use from low-density residential to medium-density residential. Staff is in support of this request as we feel this change of land use is compatible with the adjacent medium-density residential to the north. It will open up some properties that can be possibly developed for multifamily. It increases our acreage for multifamily that our comp plan in its data shows that we are woefully below some acreage that we need for medium density, and will open up some properties for some housing diversity, hopefully some workforce and not low income, but workforce housing. Staff also wants to note that based on Florida statutes, if this is approved tonight, we will let the state know, give them notice, but the ordinance will not be effective until 31 days after adoption of the local, by the local government. So this ordinance would be effective 31 days from today. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
My name is Kevin Hawkins, St. Lucie Development. You want me to make a statement?
Yeah, if there's anything you'd like to.
I approached the city, I've had this property for about 25 plus years. I approached the city months ago about what I could possibly do with the property. The discussion of workforce housing and affordable housing came up. And I basically told the city officials that whatever the city of Sebastian decided to do would be okay with me. And so basically we came into the multifamily scenario where the price point of new construction could be approximately $100,000 less per house based upon the requirements, building a smaller house, and just you know, the land costs, your development costs, your water, your sewer, all these things have made the initial housing in Sebastian go over $300,000, heading for $400,000, and it becomes a sincere affordability issue for the residents who work here and want to live here. And so, lack of a better term, somewhere along the line, people were building big trucks, and Toyota came along and built a smaller little truck. And it's kind of the same theory here. The main motivator for my business is to meet a need rather than try to create a need. And with the way you can do it, with the very nice developments that can be out there that are well planned, that are highly scrutinized with the city, with all the requirements, the recreation, all the factors that go involved in any land development, which is extremely hard to do, this particular project will enhance the neighborhood. It will be extremely well put together because there's a long list of hearings and requirements that have to be met before any type of approval of a plan is going to be accepted. And there'll be buffers, and every single consideration will be taken to make it enhance the neighborhood and have the least amount of impact on the existing residents. I know it may not be the most desirable or popular plan, but it just really comes down to affordability. And that's basically why I'm here. If it does pass, then I'll go back to the city planners and ask for their recommendation as to what they would recommend to go to the next step. So it's a combination of going along with the city planners to enhance the neighborhood, and basically that's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's good. Thanks.
You want to have a seat, or?
Yeah, you can have a seat. That's
Okay.
fine. All right. Since this is a public hearing, I'm going to open it up to the public. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address this item? Sir. No, thank you.
Name is Armin Pasquale. I'm a 2-year resident of this city. I have seen what increasing of density has done to various other cities, including the one I left. I see it happening south of here. I see it happening north of here. I see the problems it creates. He presents a nice picture. Wait till you start enforcing more people in smaller areas, more problems, more costs, higher taxes, higher water bills that we, the residents, are going to have to bear to support his project. Development does not pay for itself and never has. Should we bear the burden of his development and his profit making? I don't think so, and the majority of people in this city want single-family homes on reasonable-sized lots, not multifamily. I have talked to many people. This is what I hear. This is what I see. Don't change the mode because the people in this city want it with less density, more livability, more freedom, less crime, less trouble. This starts a bad pattern. Think about it.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else? No applause, please. Anyone else like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none. Okay, council, any comments, questions? Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I'll go first. As I said last time, I disagree with this. I know further down into the agenda, we're talking about helping with our workforce housing, working with Habitat. I think that's where we need to begin with this, and not more developers, especially out-of-town developers who fail to take interest in our community or invest in our community. Developers who just blow into town trying to make a buck. that's where I stand on this. That area is already so congested. I don't think this is where we need to go right now.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, I'll go next.
Yeah.
Sure. In the state of Florida, we have the Burt J. Harris Act, which gives a property owner private rights to do as it wishes with its property as long as it meets the qualifications of the comprehensive plan, the city ordinances, and the basic overall concept for what's required to build in this city. Just north of this property, there's a property that's medium density. It's called Sandridge Estates. I would like anybody to tell me they've gone through Sandridge Estates and tell me they've seen poverty, that they've seen crime, that they've seen anything. It's a very nice neighborhood, and I'm hoping that's what we're going to see in this neighborhood. Something that's a little more affordable because they've got, I think some of those are duplexes, but most of them are quadplexes. They would probably kill me for calling their properties quadplexes. They would like to call them condominiums, and that's fine, whatever they would like to call it. It's 4 units four houses per unit. So I want to call that a quadplex for sake of discussion. The area that it's in is behind a group of probably 5 single-family homes. The area that we're talking about, there's very little congestion over in that area of Sebastian. This area has no houses on it. It's platted for, Ms. Bosworth, can you tell me how many houses that's platted for, that area right now?
I believe there's about 97.
Okay, so that area is currently platted for 97 single-family homes. He's looking to do something a little different to be able to make something more affordable. You know, the problem when you ask people what they think about building new development is you're asking people that have a house already. You're asking people that already afford to live here. You're not asking those people living here that have kids that can't afford to move out of their house. You're not asking people that are living in a small apartment because they can't afford a house. This gives an opportunity for that to happen. I'm sorry, you know, we would all love to not build any more houses, but once again, in the state of Florida, private property rights overwrites that. So if we don't give him the ability to have the medium density, we don't move forward to let him have workforce housing, that'll be great. We'll have 96 $400,000 houses that only the medium high income people can afford to live in. Who does that help? That doesn't help our city. That provides another 96 houses that your average child wanting to move out of a house, your average medium income person can't afford. I'll tell you, I bought my house, it's on public record. I bought my 4-bedroom house 5 years ago for $249,000. Miranda sells that same house with a lot right now for $460,000. I could not afford my house today. I could not live in it where I'm living now. If this is an opportunity to change that some, you know, I get it. He could stand here and make all the promises in the world, but we're only in the very beginning stages of this. This is just the density of the property. This isn't the plan. The plan is to come. The one question I would ask is, are you planning on putting apartments on this property? Can you come up to the podium, if you would, please? Are you planning on putting any apartments on this property? Or are you planning on, okay.
No. If I may address one comment that Ms. Dixon made. I've been in Vero Beach since 1976, and I've been a landowner in Sebastian for 30 years. I currently own 20 duplexes in Sebastian, so I'm very familiar with how nice Sebastian is. I've been working with the planning department in various capacities for over 25 years, so I'm not some out-of-town developer that's coming here to rape and pillage and basically be greedy with the profit. I have plenty of resources, and so I just want to let you know that's not the case. I did 3 years ago, moved to Georgia. I'm kind of semi-retiring. I moved to Georgia. I go back and forth. I still currently have, between apartments, duplexes, and houses, over 65 houses under construction, all of which deal with basically first-time home buyers, I would say lower income, or basically the people that the banks won't take is what I really do in my market. So I'm very familiar with it. And it's not going to benefit anybody for this project to be less than state-of-the-art and with all the latest requirements in landscaping and buffering and drainage and everything that's required to really do land development. I'm abandoning my existing plat, which I don't have to do, but I am. There's an agreement with the city of Sebastian. It's been in place for many, many years that that I could actually develop this property at a lesser standard than the standards are today. So we're walking away from that and just basically coming in and starting over. So I personally feel the property exactly across the street from it, which are quads, fourplexes that were put in many years ago. It's very neat, it's very clean, and it's a very good model to copy because it's very nice right in there. And that's basically it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So with that, you can sit down.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. With that, I offer full support because if, constantly we talk about workforce housing. Everybody chastises us for not finding ways to bring workforce housing. Here we have an opportunity to put our money where our mouths is. We'll have a second opportunity a little bit later tonight. But as far as I'm talking right now, I support this because without it, we're not doing anything about the problem. Thank you.
Anyone else down there? Councilmember Jones, McPartland?
I mean, in my regular job, I get about probably 5 or 6 calls every month about housing, families in need of housing. They got no place to go, living in their cars. This gentleman here has owned the property for over 20 years, 25 years, and he says the 2 key words, affordable and fitting a need. And there's a major need for housing, for people this isn't Section 8 housing he's building, okay? This is not that, and don't say it. People need a place. Our police officers need a place to live. Everybody working in the city needs a place to live. They can't afford these costs that are way out of control. So with that, I motion to pass ordinance number O-24-11.
Second.
Okay. Councilmember Jones, you have something you'd like to say?
No, sir. Second.
Okay, I got that one. Now, all right,
everybody else has already said what I need to say. I don't want to repeat those same things. Sir. So,
all right, I don't have to divulge this now, but I do during the next quasi judicial. I did meet with the gentleman previous to his. Actually, I think he started his process, but I had a very pleasant meeting, and I was very pleasantly pleased when he talked about what he intends to do and his commitment to Sebastian. Right now in Indian River County, the median income level is $58,900 and some dollars, and that means that anybody who makes less than that really can't buy a $350,000 house because you can only, under state statutes, you have to spend less than 25% of your gross income on mortgage, interest, PMI, taxes, so forth, and the interesting article recently talked about the jobs that are being created in Florida, and I've heard a lot of touting during this political season about who does the best job of creating jobs. All the jobs that are being created are service jobs. They're hospitality. They work in assisted living facilities. They're waitresses. They're bartenders. They're cooks. The highest paying salary that was listed in the article about those was something in the neighborhood of $32,000 a year. Well, at $32,000 income, you can't buy a $180,000 house. You can't buy a $140,000 house under the state statutes limits. It's nice to know that Sebastian has a large number of retirees who can bring large equity accounts here and can buy the $400,000 houses or $450,000 houses. But we have a lot of people who we rely on to run this city who can't do that. And this is an opportunity, I think, for us to do something that fits that need. And it fits the need. I think it can fit the need very well. So I'm in favor of this action tonight. Anyone else? All right, the public has already spoken, right? No one else said they wanted to speak? Then let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Dixon.
No.
Okay, we're now on to ordinance O-2412, which is the rezoning of that property related to the land change that just took place.
An ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, designating a zoning classification of RM8 residential multifamily, 8 dwelling units per acre, to land with current zoning designation of RS10 residential single family, for property consisting of 20.38 acres, more or less, located east of Schumann Drive, north and east of Day Drive, and south of Dahl Avenue, or specifically lots 15 to 28, Block 583, lots 1 to 28, Block 582, and lots 2 to 29, Block 581, Sebastian's Highlands, Unit 17, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this is a quasi-judicial public hearing, so I'm going to pull out the list that Jeanette gave me. I'm officially opening the hearing. Our attorney has read the title. Are there any other ex parte communications other than the one that I talked about a minute ago?
No.
No? Okay. Speaker oath cards. If someone wants to address the council on this, they need to provide me a speaker oath card. The reason for that is not to hassle people, but we need to have an accurate record of the people who address the council during the quasi-judicial hearings. That's the reason for doing that. Staff, make your presentation, please.
Thank you, Council. This is the accompanying request for zoning with its land use. Now, remember, the medium density land use allows up to 10 units per acre. The applicant has requested a zoning designation of RM8, which will allow him up to a maximum of 8 units per acre. He is not requesting a PUD zoning, so he will have to follow the minimum lot sizes, the setbacks of the RM8, which those require minimum lot sizes is 15,000 square feet versus the 10,000, but it does allow you to put a duplex. You can have multifamily on that 15,000 square foot. It is in compatibility with the zoning district to the north and to where the Sandridge Estates are. I wanted to address the gentleman who had concerns that the neighborhood and Sebastian residents may be taxed with some of the development costs. If there is determination through a traffic impact analysis that this subdivision will need a turn lane to turn into it, that developer will have to put that in and improve Schumann Drive or the intersection or any of the, through our analysis when they come in with the preliminary plat, any development costs will be borne by the developer. But of course, a lot of that infrastructure is in already. We're hoping it won't be expensive because that's what allows the developer to offer an affordable housing if he doesn't have to put in a lot of the infrastructure costs. Staff recommends approval. We'd like to, since it's a quasi-judicial, all of the packet that you have before you is the same information that was given to you for first reading, and we would like to add this into the record along with the discussion and public hearing participants from the first reading into the second reading quasi-judicial hearing. Staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you. All right, audience, anyone from the audience who is opposed to this request and would like to address the council? Okay, see none. Anyone from the audience who is in favor of this request and would like to address the council? Okay, seeing none. There was nothing brought up, so we don't have to worry about anyone, applicant or staff, responding to any issues that came forward. Staff, do you have any final comments?
No, no further comments.
All right, council, deliberation, and then a motion, if you would please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance O-24-12.
Okay, did you want to?
Second.
Yeah, I wanted to talk. We're just rushing
Well, you
through
can talk.
this.
Either way.
We have a motion in a second, but you can talk.
Oh, my goodness. So frustrating. So you brought up police officers. I love how we're just like rushing for multifamily housing and all of this when we can't even fill the allotted police officers we need to protect our city right now. So we're trying to add, I understand we need housing, but we're already in a bind here. And this is going to take time. I get that, but this makes zero sense to me.
Okay.
It's my input.
All right, good.
Thinking about our citizens.
Anybody else have anything they want to say?
Mr. Mayor, I will. If anybody watched the budget hearing, you'll see that we have 7 open positions, and those 7 positions are spoken for, which will
Takes
fully
time.
fill our police officers once they're done with the hiring and the school and the things like that. But at this time, we're right on the right track to where we need to be. But the point is, how are we going to bring officers here if they can't afford a place to live? So once again, this is an opportunity to bring something that we have a need for. Workforce housing that people that don't make $100,000 a year hopefully can afford to live in. People that are making $60,000 are teachers. We have teachers, and unless they're lucky and are married to someone that makes, $250,000 a year or whatever, teachers are looking for houses to live in. I know many teachers. I have teacher friends that are still living with their parents because they can't afford to move into a house by themselves. If this gives an opportunity to bring that to Sebastian, then I'm all for it. Thank you.
All right. Let's have a roll call, please.
Who was the second?
I'm sorry.
Oh, Jones?
Jones.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, it was Bob, yeah.
It was Bob McPartlin was the second.
That's right, Jones was the
Councilmember
last one.
McPartlin was the
Okay.
second.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
No.
And Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, for everybody in the room and anybody who may be watching us on television, we're going to have 4 items in a row here, which are actually legal issues related to a city swap of 0.6 acres with the owner of the property on the corner of Schuman and US 1 for 0.7 acres, which basically realigned the borders of the 2 properties so that they were straight. So I just want to make sure everybody understands. We got 4 items in a row. They're going to go pretty quick because there's not going to be a whole lot of argument, and it's all related to the same property swap that we did with that individual to land that up. So we're now on ordinance 02403, which is the second reading.
Yeah, I think it's ordinance 02413.
13, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. An ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving a small-scale amendment to the Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map to designate a land use classification of institutional for land with a current land use designation of CG Commercial General for property consisting of 0.06 acres, more or less, located east of Sebastian Historical Park, north of Schuman Drive, and west of lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 406, SH Unit 7, authorizing findings and administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for an effective date, and providing for an adoption schedule.
Okay, is there anyone from the audience or public who would like to address this item? Seeing none. Council, what's your pleasure?
Move approval of ordinance O-24-13.
Second.
I'm sorry, Alex, I didn't give you a chance to say anything, but
This one a lot.
It's the second and final reading. It's a request, yeah.
I'll let you speak on the next 3.
Okay.
Okay. Any comments from the council? Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to item D, which is on page 88 of the agenda packet, O2414.
An ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, designating a zoning classification of PS Public Service to land with a current zoning designation of CG Commercial General for property consisting of 0.06 acres, more or less, located east of Sebastian Historical Park, north of Schuman Drive, and west of lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 406, SH Unit 7, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
All right, is there anyone from the public who would like to address this item? All right, seeing none. Council, what's your pleasure? You want to say, all right, Alex, we'll let our community development director say something.
This is the second and final reading for this. The request is for rezoning from commercial general to public service. It's 0.06 acres, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Council.
Mr. Mayor, move approval of ordinance O-24-14.
Second.
All right. The motion was by Councilmember Jones, second by Councilmember McPartland.
Want to disclose any ex parte communications? It's quasi-judicial.
This is quasi, oh, I'm sorry.
None.
Has there been
None.
any ex parte communication? No. All right. Now, anyone from the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none. Anyone from the audience like to speak in favor of this request? Seeing none. Okay. Am I clear? Am I okay now? Okay. I forgot that quasi-judicial stuff. All right. Council, what's your pleasure? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Let's have a roll call, please.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
And Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we're now on to O-24-15.
An ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving a small-scale amendment to the Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map to designate a land use classification of CG Commercial General for land with a current land use designation of institutional for property consisting of 0.07 acres more or less located east of Sebastian Historical Park, north of Schuman Drive, and west of lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 406 SH, Unit 7, authorizing findings and administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for Scrivener's errors, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
All right, thank you, sir. Would staff like to make a presentation?
This is the second and final request for comp plan amendment from institutional to general commercial, 0.07 acres. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have in regards to this item.
Okay. Anyone from the public like to address this item? Say none. Council, what's your pleasure?
Move approval of ordinance number O-24-15.
Second.
Did you get that? None made the second? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any comments? Hearing nothing, let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
And Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, ordinance O-24-16, which is a quasi-judicial hearing.
An ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, designating a zoning classification of CG Commercial General to land with a current zoning designation of PS Public Service for property consisting of 0.07 acres more or less, located east of Sebastian Historical Park, north of Schuman Drive, and west of lots 1, 2, and 3, blocks 406 SH, Unit 7, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for Scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, sir. Is there any ex parte communication on this item?
No, sir.
No.
All right, seeing none. Just a reminder, if anyone wants to speak on this, they'll need to turn in a speaker oath card. Staff would you like to make a presentation?
This is the second and final reading for the rezoning request of 0.07 acres from public service to general commercial. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, anyone opposed to this request would like to address the council? Anyone in favor of this request would like to address the council? Okay, final staff comments? No? All right, council, what's your pleasure?
Move approval of ordinance number O-24-16.
Second.
You get it?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we're finished with that.
Finally.
Okay, we're on to new business. Item A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this item is A consideration of the First Amendment to the franchise agreement between the City of Sebastian and Waste Management of Florida. The city entered into a franchise agreement on April 12th, 2023, which went into effect on July 1st of 2023. And since the inception of the agreement, there have been some changes in the local market, and City Council had requested staff to have discussions with WM in regards to our franchise agreement. Following several meetings, they have provided the proposed amendment, which would take effect on October 1st of 2024. And it's included in your packet. And then also on the dais, I provided you all a couple documents that kind of showed an outline of what the costs are considering the current agreement and the cost associated with the amendment for our residents. And that's what's up for your consideration for you all tonight. I know Waste Management does have representatives here tonight if you have specific questions for them as well.
All right. Brian, is there the changes that are delineated on the amendment that's in our packet? Those are the only changes to the contract that we're proposing to take place?
That is correct. They are the only changes that are contained in the contract.
Okay. So basically what we're doing is we're reducing the monthly rate to $16.25 per month, correct?
Yes, so the changes that are in the amendment would reduce the monthly rate to $16.25 per month as of October 1st, 2024. They then commit to that rate unchanged, no CPI increase until September 30th of 2027. That being the first increase to the residential solid waste collection service rate would then take place as of October 1st of 2027 and be based upon the increase in CPI or 3%, whichever is less.
Okay.
And then the additional is the scholarship opportunity. And the only change in that verbiage that's in here, the one that's in your packet, we had gone back and forth on some dates. So the one in your packet was not the latest version. It included July 1st. However, they have, since school is out by then, I wanted to make sure we received that money prior to that. So it's changed to May 1st now.
Okay. Now and I know anyone who's looked at the packet online has not seen this spreadsheet that you just provided us. But I have a question on that. On the fiscal year 24-25 through 26-27 dollar amount, we have a monthly franchise fee of 98 cents included in the monthly for a monthly rate of $17.23 and an annual rate of $195. And then there's an $11.70 annual franchise. And I have a question about, is that double dipping?
So what I basically did was I gave you what the monthly cost would be. So the monthly rate is $16.25 plus a 98-cent franchise fee for a monthly total of $17.25. And then I provided you the annual rate. So the annual rate is $195. The annual 6% franchise fee would be $11.70 for a total annual cost of $206.70.
Okay, I see Chris has got his calendar, his calculator out. Is the 1723 equivalent to 206.70?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I couldn't do it in my head.
I decided to grab the calculator.
I mean, there might be some percentages of a penny that I didn't get correct 100%, but that's...
Now, in our current, under the contract pre-amendment, the current annual total is?
Currently taking effect on October 1st, 2024. This is based on, I think they've given us a CPI increase that's like 2.89%, but for my math, I used 3% just to make sure it was in here. The annual total would have been, or would be, $254.76.
Okay, so we're looking at about a 40, keep hearing that banging noise somewhere.
About a almost $4 decrease from what we have now,
okay.
so, yes.
Yeah, you got that? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it's an annual decrease of, okay, $54, all right. Council, that's all my questions. Does anyone else have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I'd just like to say that, obviously, for those people that know, I did not vote for the mandatory trash pickup, but the city is in that now, and I can definitely support. I know that we're good. This contract is in force. I definitely can support reducing the dollar amount our residents have to pay for trash, so.
Hey, see, you know, I'm looking at the $25,000 for scholarships. I think that could put the city in a bind. Oh, they pay this favorite, or they knew this person to get the 25. I would like to see the $25,000 be for seniors in need. You know, because stuff always comes up. I mean, Brian called me a couple days ago about when the air conditioner went out, their refrigerator goes out. And I think that's, I'd love to help the kids, but I don't want to get caught up in that. I'd rather see something, you know, helping the seniors.
Yeah, what would that entail anyway, Brian? We'd have to have different staff members take a look at that, or what?
Yeah, that was
When
a
it comes
question I
down to
asked
that.
as well, how that was determined.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So, you know, my only comment on if we were to use this, so if we use it for high school scholarships, council would either need to handle the process on a council level, or they create a citizen committee that makes those selections. If we were to go the route of Councilmember McPartland's request, it would involve staff having to have some parameters and people coming in and applying through staff, and staff would then have to make that determination if Waste Management was even amenable to that option. But it would involve some staff hours and staff time to figure out what exactly our standards are for who gets the money and who doesn't.
Is there, just for grin's sake, maybe Waste, I don't know whether Waste Management, Deb, whether you want to come up and address it, but I guess my question is there any issue if the city wants to use that $25,000 for some other than scholarships? I'm
Debbie Perez, Government Affairs Manager for WM's work here in Indian River County and City of Sebastian. First of all, I just want to thank all the council members and especially Brian for working with us on this. We strive to make sure this partnership is a working partnership with us. We offered this $25,000 because we've done it in other counties and municipalities for scholarships, and usually the elected officials like it, but we are open and amenable if you would choose to wish it to use it another way. So we're open to that.
okay. So you don't really, I mean, what if we decide to use that $25,000 to provide some type of a payment relief to people who just can't make the payment?
As I said, the $25,000 check we will cut to you, and you can use it as you may wish.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, because I don't know, I tend to think that, we talked about this one time before. I think I brought it up when we were originally talking about this, that maybe we should come up with some way that we can provide relief to people who truly are in need and truly can't pay for this.
That was something we were considering originally, yes.
So maybe the $25,000, I just, that's roughly 100 annual payments for people who truly, and I would have to figure out a way to define what truly in need is, which we're going to have to figure out a way to define who gets the scholarships or who senior gets what. So,
Well, along with the seniors, you got two gentlemen here, and you could allocate them the $25,000, and it has to be a Sebastian resident. I think that could happen.
yeah.
There's seniors, problem with the roof. They need it replaced. Their homeowners is out of control, or they just might need a deck built that's more handicap accessible, and they don't have the money for that.
Right, and I'm working with currently a senior who has an air conditioning issue that has some money but do not have enough to cover the actual cost for the AC. She lives alone in a big house and doesn't have a husband or anything, so those things could definitely benefit some of our residents that are in need.
Okay.
I was going to say, I believe that the challenge is staff manpower, and if we put this on our staff, then that's hours that's going to have to be spent by our staff that are unplanned at this point to manage it. If it did go to an outside organization to handle, then that would be fine as long as they're willing to do that. I don't have a problem. I kind of like the idea of garbage payment assistance to people. We have talked about that in the past, and using the money for that. I like the idea of the city of Sebastian giving 5 or 10, however we decided to do it, scholarships to youth. You know, I like that idea as well. I guess I'm open
We could workshop
to.
this.
Yeah, we could probably workshop this, and I don't know that we have to make a decision on that right now,
Right.
do we? So,
Okay, well, we have to, because I think it's imperative tonight that we either approve or approve this modification of the contract. So all we
Right.
have to do is modify
Modify the
section
language.
13.26, the language in that to basically say something about that they're going to provide $25,000 and the city is going to determine the appropriate use for that. Is that, Andrew?
Yeah, I think you could put in the agreement that they're going to provide $25,000 for scholarships or other similar use that the city determines.
Okay.
Okay.
So that change could be made to it.
Is that okay with?
And I'm seeing a head shaking out there, so.
Okay.
that means we don't have to decide what to do with it tonight.
Right.
And we can talk about
Then
that.
Brian can come back with some recommendations, and we can make a decision as to what to do with it, how to carry forward.
And maybe he's got a staff member that's already got an idea how to deal with it, maybe not, but.
Brian, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think we'll just have to come back and have a little bit of a workshop to
Yeah.
figure out exactly, because I've heard quite a few different ideas up here. And make sure we're all on the same page and how we're going to accomplish what you all direct us to get done.
All right. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to address this item? See none. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see one hand.
All I wanted to offer was Jim Sullivan, property owner here in Sebastian, with the prospect of providing financial assistance for seniors in need. I think it's a great thing to ponder and consider. Maybe there may be an existing agency that the city might contemplate moving those monies over to laterally move it to an agency that's already engaged in providing those assistance so that the staff doesn't have to become entangled with it. They may already have standards and methods, policies, and procedures that the city can get comfortable with, and to privatize it in some ways, but the non-for-profit space. Because having run non-for-profits myself, when people come in the door, it's a sad heart story. It's gonna be tough on the staff to pick who the winners and the losers are. And there's some people who are just conditioned to do it, and they do that all day long. You know, people who work in providing assistance. So it was just, and it may be more of a workshop comment to think about, but it might not have to create another duty for the city. So my thoughts as a citizen. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, council, when I say what's your pleasure, if anyone makes a motion, would you please include in the motion with the modification that the city attorney identified for section 13.26?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the franchise agreement between the City of Sebastian and Waste Management to include the alteration of section 1326, that the money shall be used either for a scholarship or some other financial assistance program as decided by City Council at a later date.
0.26.
Yeah, 13.26.
13.26.
Okay. Any other comments? Let's have a roll call, please.
I didn't hear the second. Oh, thank you. Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
All right. Just to remind everybody out there, what we just did, what the city manager and waste management did was reduce the monthly payment, which is a good thing. So now we're on to item number 12C, which is adoption of a motion to set a proposed millage rate.
Mr. Mayor, we're on B.
12B? Oh,
Yes, sir.
See, I have a check mark beside that. I don't know why I put it there. Okay, this is the workforce housing.
Yes, sir.
Workforce housing in partnership with Indian River County Habitat for Humanity for surplus city property. I'll let the staff make a presentation.
So I'll start it off and then I'll let Alex take it over from there. So at the direction of you all back in March, we had contacted Habitat for Humanity. We've had quite a few meetings with them discussing properties that the city owns that may be beneficial for them to use as, affordable workforce housing within the city limits. And we had provided them a listing, and we reviewed together with them approximately 96 separate parcels. And based on Habitat for Humanity, that we provided them our kind of list of like 7 to 10 properties that we thought would accomplish the goal of what we wanted to do. And they came back and said, well, here's our top 3. So basically what we're looking for tonight is to get a little bit of direction from council on whether or not you all agree with the properties that staff and Habitat for Humanity has come to some agreement that these are good parcels for this opportunity, and then allow us to begin negotiations on an agreement with them and bring it back to you all at a later date.
Okay.
And I know Alex will speak on staff's behalf, but also know Habitat for Humanity is here as well.
Okay, go ahead.
So Alex, you can add anything I forgot. I apologize.
I don't know that I have anything to add. Brian covered it pretty adequately. We have been meeting with Habitat for Humanity on several different occasions. We negotiated 5 different properties that they had the potential of being interested in. They came back with the top 3 in their order that they'd like to see and work in partnership with us on. And that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything that we...
Okay. These are already platted Highlands properties, correct?
They are...
Yeah, it doesn't show plat lines on here, but there's actually plats that they're already platted, are they not?
I believe that this is probably, some of them are GDC surplus, like park, intentional for parks, like a pocket park back in the GDC days is what I see.
I was just trying to get at approximately how many house lots there are among these 3 properties.
Right. So I believe some of them are platted, and then the other 2 are, like I said, were intended for something smaller.
Okay. Of course, like the first one is 2.49 acres, so if we talk about quarter-acre plots, we could put 5 houses on that approximately. We could plat 5 at a quarter-acre lot.
And Habitat may can speak to that, because they've looked at these parcels pretty closely, and they may can tell you kind of what their ideas or thoughts are.
Okay. That's, I guess, my interest is whether we're planning on staying consistent for the Habitat houses with the plat sizes that are within the overall Highlands areas. Okay.
Good question.
You want to?
Good evening, everybody. Trevor Loomis, CEO of Indian River Habitat for Humanity. So yeah, on these 3 different parcels, they're all relatively similar in size. What we're proposing to do is to come in and not modify, to multifamily zoning or high density anything, but to have these properties platted in accordance with what's already existing there, so that they would fit within the current Highlands plan that's been in existence for a number of decades. So individual yields would depend on certain things like what stormwater requirements we would have to adhere to and things like that. But our intention with these 3 is that they would not require huge, subdivision redevelopment sort of thing. That we'd be able to plat them to fit within the existing neighborhoods, and with driveways facing the roads and things like that. That would give us average, 8 to 10 houses per parcel, depending on size. I think the one on Barber is probably kind of tricky because of the shape. The other 2 could be 10 homes apiece, with the traditional quarter-acre lot. And we're talking about single-family houses, 3 or 4 bedroom, depending on some of the other requirements. I understand these are all in septic currently, so those would be aerobic treatment units. And house size within, that fits within that. But the hope would be that whatever that yield ends up being, it would fit within the existing neighborhood and not be any sort of major, transformation. It's just taking these small, otherwise, unused parcels and turning them into workforce housing options.
That's kind of what I was getting at. If it's a platted piece of property, there's a much less stringent active process that they have to go through with the city than it is if it's already non-platted. I mean, if you just take a bulk piece of land that's not platted under the general development plan, then they got to go through a much different process than they do if it's already platted for 5 houses and they're building a house on each platted lot.
Right.
And what we want to do is we don't want to encumber Habitat with having to go through all of those steps that you would have to go through if you're building in a non-platted piece of property. That's something for you guys to figure out on how to do, so, you know.
Yeah, and it's not something that we expect, you know, if we do this, we're not having houses come out of the ground within a week or something like that, right? I mean, we're typically, currently, within the county, we have something like 26 or 28 homes under construction. Each of those are on infill lots, whether that's in the south part of the county or in Vero Lake Estates. And individual, you know, planning and site work on each of those lots, they're each individual. I expect this would be very similar. Takes typically 6 to 9 months. So there's a significant amount of work that goes into actually doing them. So if we can, you know, we're well prepared and well suited to build like that. But there's a lot going on. So we have the time to go through the process properly and to do all that.
All right, thank you. Council, any other, let me ask you, is there anyone from the audience who would like to address this? Ma'am? Thank you.
I'm Louise Cottenberg, and I live in Sebastian and have for 28 years. I'm here to encourage you to take positive action on this issue and more than this issue, because unfortunately I left my notes at home in the hurry to get here and I was still late. But right now in the city of Sebastian, there is not a home for less than $215,000, and that's not a real house. Okay? If a person could purchase that home, if they met the criteria of the bank, if they were able to save up a down payment, their monthly payment would be $1,728 plus taxes and insurance, which brings the monthly payment to over $2,000 easily. I know I got a gift from my insurance company this week. My insurance is now $4,000 a year. That's a lot of money. We also have, and Habitat has a good reputation, and they've done a good job throughout the country, not just throughout Indian River County. But we are very, very close to being in a dire, caustic situation here, with not having housing that is affordable for new graduates from school, for employees who have not reached mid-management, and for older people. And I know Mr. McPartland has mentioned it, and something that Mr. Jones alluded to in his comment, an older woman who is trapped in a house that she can no longer afford to maintain. She has nobody to help her. And this is the largest growing segment of the homeless. And I want to tell you, these are not strangers. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. These are our relatives. And we need to do something. We've been working on this for the past 28 years that I've been here, and as yet, tonight is the first time we've ever actually done anything. This is nothing to be afraid of. But here's another situation. We often talk about quality employment opportunities. We are never, ever going to attract anything other than service industry if we do not have housing that is affordable by the employees of the company, because companies spend a tremendous amount of time and money training their employees only to have them move away when they discover they can't afford to live here and they have to start all over again. And if you think that that's not true, it is true, which is how many times have we all said, you know, gee, we'd like to have this business or that business. here, and we've got the population for it, and we can afford the product. Why can't we get them to come here? It's because they know they can't get a workforce that will be permanent. And from our perspective as individuals, we get to pay for our mistakes. In order to get good quality employees who don't live in our city because they can't afford to live in our city, we're going to have to pay them more money, which means every service that you use is going to cost you more money. And it's not a joke. We've seen that. You can go all over town and you can see businesses that are temporarily closed because they don't have any employees. The restaurant at the golf course on July 9th had a sign posted on the window, "Sorry, we're closing at 3 o'clock today for lack of employees." It's a comfort when you can go to your eye doctor, the hospital, your favorite ice cream shop, your favorite restaurant, and see the same employees that you see week after week. They know you, you know them. The whole experience is more comfortable for us, but we are soon going to find that that's gone away if we don't act on this. And it's not just workforce, it's not just young people, it's old people too. I know a lot of people who live in really nice houses and they don't want anything that isn't at least as nice as their house in their neighborhood, but they don't even know it. They're trapped in those houses. They're not going to be able to get out. I have a friend who said, "Oh, I could sell my house and I could make money, but I'd have to live in my car," because she can't afford anything new. And she doesn't need a big house anymore. But there's no place to live. There's no apartment available. The least expensive rental available in Sebastian today is $1,850. Takes a pretty good job to afford that. And most little old ladies can't afford it. I can tell you that for sure. So please look on this with favor and look on the next proposal with favor as well. When they come to you, think about not ourselves, but think about what's around the corner. Think about our friends, think about our neighbors, think about our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, before we go on, could we have Trevor or Jeff come up, because I anticipate a lot of naysayers on this, and speak about the financial requirements, the sweat hours they got to put in, and the type of homes that they are building?
Before I answer that, I would like to say you're welcome to join the team anytime, because she gets it, right? That's the issue in a nutshell that we're facing in this area. So I applaud you for considering solutions like this. So essentially, the way Habitat's, we have a number of programs. Our home ownership program, which is what we're most known for, is kind of how this would operate. We also do we have a very robust neighborhood revitalization program. We did 17 houses in the city of Sebastian just last year, renovations, roof replacements, accessibility things, HVAC replacement for seniors that don't have any air conditioning, things like that. Those critical things that keep people in their homes and able to continue to live there in an affordable way. Our home ownership program operates for, essentially, we build a house in partnership with a qualified home buyer that family earns less than 80% of the area median income. So for example, for a single person, it's around, I don't know off the top of my head, it's around $45,000 a year. For a family of 4, it's about $65,000 a year or less. What we then do is we build them a house, we sell the house. We are the builder, developer, realtor, lender. We do all of that in-house. We provide an interest-free mortgage with a monthly payment out the door of about 25% of that family's monthly income. Now, we can't control the insurance companies and their taxes after that. But out the door, we currently don't have any new mortgages that have gone over $1,000 a month yet. We're getting close as costs go up. And measures like this help us to keep those costs low. Out of that, let's say it's $1,000 a month, less than half of that is actually the principal payment. The remainder is taxes and insurance on that property. And so that's another issue that's causing affordability to be difficult. But you're talking about, the 80% of the area median income. That is the vast majority of the workforce here, particularly young families, young working families, single parents with a couple of kids. They all fall within that. So we also work with the SHIP program through Indian River County and the state of Florida to provide that's vital to us, to provide assistance to allow us to keep those monthly payments low. As low as possible. But I want to say that we also are selling these houses for appraised value. So if people are concerned about, this is going to bring our property values down, that's not the case. If anything, it increases property values. We sell for the appraised value. Any additional subsidy that's not set for recapture through a mortgage payment or a government subsidy is a deferred mortgage, which just sits there and is unpaid. There's no interest that accrues on it until the home buyer sells that house. It can transfer generations with no issues. But if the family decides they need to move on, they're going to sell the house. We don't want anybody trapped in their home, but that subsidy is repaid at the time of closing. So on average, I don't know what a Habitat house will appraise for in Sebastian. I would expect a little higher than most of what we do, but we're pushing $300,000 on an appraisal these days. It's a 1,200 square foot, house for a 3-bed, 2-bath with a 1-car garage. That is a typical home that we build. We'll do a larger house if the family size determines that using HUD guidelines. But it continues to be most likely the most affordable housing option, certainly when talking about simple, safe, decent housing for families that actually meets their needs, not a mom and 3 kids that are living in a 1-bedroom somewhere. But this is actually a housing unit that will meet their needs. And we'll serve single individuals, we'll serve young families, we'll serve seniors, as long as they meet those income requirements and they have a demonstrated need for affordable housing, which most of us do these days.
Thank
Can
you,
I
sir.
ask Trevor a question
Yeah.
before he does leave? I didn't hear you mention it, so I wanted to bring it up. If somebody does decide to sell the house, doesn't Habitat also have a first right of repurchase so that it's not being sold to make money by those people?
Correct. Yes, we do. So we have a variety of different affordability devices in place, different documentation. So just because a house appraises at, let's say, $300,000 and the initial first mortgage repayment on that might be $150,000, that person's not going to turn around the next day and sell it for $150,000. That's not how it works. We have structured over time these documents, various different mortgages with different devices in there, shared appreciation, first right of refusal, things like that, to allow 2 things. We want to preserve any subsidy that's put into the property. So in this case, donation of property from the city to Habitat, that's sold, but that will be permanently affordable, right? So we have the first right of refusal. We have the ability to share appreciation over time. Any secondary subsidy is held permanently deferred. So when that home buyer decides they are going to move to another area, they are going to sell the house and life circumstances change. In almost every case, we have the ability to recapture that home, renovate it, sell it to another qualified family. So it is permanently affordable. We simply use different devices than, say, a community land trust. There are both options that accomplish the same thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counsel?
Could you talk about the sweat hours and the commitment that they have to make in order to get?
Absolutely. So, building a house with us is not a quick process. On average, it's 2 years for someone who walks through our doors, give or take. Some people can go faster than others. But a home buyer has to do at least 300 hours of sweat equity. So in enable, in order to receive all the assistance, to receive an interest-free mortgage, to receive that opportunity, because that's what we're in the business for, there is a sweat equity requirement. There is a down payment savings requirement that happens over the course of that program. While they're completing sweat equity through volunteer hours, whether that's in a Habitat Restore, working on a Habitat construction site, learning new skills. Sometimes there are other things, other volunteer things. We'll give the kids, we'll give them sweat equity hours if their kids get good grades, things like that. In order to do that and to receive all that, that is a part of it. So it's very much a partnership. It gives the homeowner, eventually it gives them significant buy-in to this process. And because of that buy-in to the process, in addition to the fact that it is far more affordable than most housing solutions that are out there, we have a very, very high success rate. So our banks would love to have our foreclosure rate. We have, historically, it's far less than 1%. So we have a time-tested program. We've been building houses here for 33 years. We've built over 550 houses within Indian River County alone, another more than 800 through our neighborhood revitalization program.
Thank you.
Enough?
Thank you, Trevor.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, council, what's your pleasure?
So, Mr. Mayor, if I can, I'm looking at the three, and I don't have a problem with either one of the three. And the only thing I would ask on number three, and since I guess we own the property and we're allowing this, that maybe it's something we could discuss. If we did choose number three, I would really only like to see houses on Acorn and Adams and not on Barber, only because that corner is pretty rough as it is. And I mean, if we could do houses on those two streets and not houses on Barber, I think it would avoid putting more driveways on that corner. You see how others feel about that. But I said, since we are the grantors of the property, if that was something that made sense to the others on the council, I think that's something I would like to see. Is, I said, houses on Acorn and Adams, but none on Barber Street direct. The other two, I don't have a problem with either one of the properties. I mean, if they want, if this one makes the most sense on Surrey and Tuxedo, I'm game for that, whatever everybody else thinks.
I'd kind of like to see us, and I have no issue with the Barber, with the city working with Habitat on some way to not have driveways coming out on Barber Street, which is a good thing.
Yeah, there was just an accident there the other day, so I brought that up to Brian.
He said he shared that sentiment with Habitat.
But council, I would support actually taking action on all three of these lots tonight and approving, on all three of these lots, approving the city to come up with a process by which it can take place on this.
Second.
Yeah, that's a motion.
That's not a motion. I'm just saying I'll support that.
I'll
let you make the motion if you'd like.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion for all three.
Gotta make it first.
You have something you want to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, this is what I was wanting to do because I trust Habitat. This is true workforce affordable housing. I am not someone who puts my trust in people because I have been burned a million times in my life by people very, very close to me. So I don't trust developers at all. They're like salesmen. But I trust Habitat. They are tried and true, and this is true workforce housing. And I definitely want us to work with them for our citizens because we do need it, and this is what we need. So I will make a motion to work with Habitat, and let's go for all three, just avoiding Barber Street driveways.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Jones, you have something you want to say?
Well, no, I thought we had a motion already, though.
Well, we do. I just wanted to know.
No, that's a second motion.
That's a second motion. Now we have two motions. But actually, we're going to vote on the one that Mr. McPartland made.
That works.
We're very
there you go. Okay.
And then one, I guess, I'd like to see that these properties' first choice would be a Sebastian employee next to Sebastian resident.
That's what we
and
said.
then lastly, an Indian River County resident.
Okay. Would it be possible?
Trevor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had discussed that when they first brought this.
We're fine with that. A couple of things. So we only, Indian River Habitat is a member of the Habitat Affiliate Network. So our organization only works within Indian River County.
Right.
So we're like a franchise, essentially. So the families that we serve either live or work in Indian River County. That is requirement number one. We are fine to add requirement in where Sebastian residents certainly who come to us will have an option to go with these. I will say we do expect to do some significant outreach within the north part of the county around a project like this. We have just undertaken a project where we're building 20 homes in Vero Lake Estates with the first several underway already. So it's new territory for us. We finished a 68-home subdivision in Fellsmere a few months ago. So to my knowledge, we've never actually built a home within the limits of the city of Sebastian. I could be wrong about that, but certainly not recently. And so we're really excited to do that, and we're excited to conduct a significant amount of outreach around that. We want to bring our housing counseling program to Sebastian and offer those resources as well to Sebastian residents. So yeah, please know that the goal is not to take a bunch of people from the south part of the county and plant them in Sebastian. The hope would be that anytime we're doing a project like this, it is to allow affordable options for the people who already live, nearby. The same thing happens if we're doing a project within Gifford. We expect that the primary, interest is going to come from within that community already, and so I expect there being no difference here.
Yeah, what we're basically approving tonight is for the staff to actually come up with an agreement, and they can build that stuff into that agreement, and then when they bring it back to us.
The other item that I wanted to bring up is that as we start the process, if a piece of this property becomes unbuildable, or we discover a reason that it's not, ownership would revert back to the city. Yeah. So we wouldn't sell that for some other use. We would ensure that the ownership of that, if we're not able to build housing there, that we would just transfer that ownership back to the city.
As we mentioned that, and what Vice Mayor said, I totally agree. I would like to add other government agencies like paramedics and sheriff and those into that mix, because obviously their pay is much lower than average. So I would like to see those added in when that discussion is brought forward.
Service
Teachers,
workers make even
service
less.
Workers,
so I don't know if you can really go that route.
Actually, for the most part, we could go on forever talking about everybody who lives in Indian River County.
You're right,
So,
exactly. I don't think you need that stipulation.
Senior citizens.
Exactly.
Yeah, come on.
I mean,
okay, we have a motion by Councilmember McPartland on the floor.
Second.
And a second. So let us vote on that motion. Let's have a roll call, please.
Okay, so I just want to.
What the motion?
I just want to point out.
Motion is that we approve directing the city staff to negotiate with Habitat Humanity for the donation of all 3 of these properties if an agreement can be reached.
Okay.
Got it.
So Councilmember McPartland first made the motion, and Councilmember Nunn seconded it.
Right. Okay.
The original
Yes.
motion.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon.
Yep.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartland.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we go from pleasant business to an adoption of the proposed millage rate.
Yes, sir. So this presentation was prepared by Mr. Kilgore, but I'm going to try to go through it since we had our budget workshop on Friday, and I kind of just hit the high points on it and go from there. So we can get the presentation up on the screen. And Ken, can you hand me the clicker? I think it's down there.
Welcome back, Ken. I couldn't imagine doing one of these without him.
I hope you enjoyed your vacation. We wish.
He's not talking to us right now.
No, he's not.
Ken, Joseph.
Joseph's coming.
Yeah, can we go 5 minutes?
5 minutes?
Yeah.
5 minutes?
5 minutes.
All right. I've had a request by Councilmember Jones that we take a 5-minute recess, so we'll recess for 5 minutes. And we're going to turn this back over to the city manager, Mr. Brian Benton.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we're going to go through our presentation on the draft 2025 budget. We had our budget workshop on Friday. We received some comments, and at least one of the things is addressed later on in this presentation. But I'm going to go through it, and then if you all have questions, you can ask. But like I said, anyone can go back and watch our budget workshop from Friday. That was very detailed with each department, their operating, their personnel, and their capital budget. So we'll give a summary of the general fund. We'll go over to enterprise and other funds, capital improvement program, property values and millage, and other considerations. So kind of looking at this draft fiscal year 2025 general fund budget versus the amended 2024 budget, you'll see an increase in personnel cost of $1,084,001. 8.2% due to pay and new positions that we'll discuss here below, but all of our employees that are underneath the unions, everyone's entitled to a 5% pay increase this year. Operating expenditures increased by $81,714, which is a 2.1% increase, and then you'll see capital items and projects. That's a decrease of a little bit over $600,000. But that's due to several items being transferred to project funds so that we can better track those projects and not keeping them in a capital account. So to draft 25, general fund budget personnel up a little bit over $1 million. Health insurance premiums are projected to be up by 12%, but not finalized. As we discussed on Friday, we are changing to an HSA from an HRA account. It includes 5% pay increases and adding 4 full-time positions. One of those 4 is a part-time position being adjusted to full-time.
Brian, on this, before we go further, when you talk about the HSA versus the HRA account, the difference is in the current one that they have, the HRA, there's no rollover for the funds at the end of the year, but the HSA, the funds roll over year by year.
Correct. So there's 2 major adjustments we made with this. So currently with our HRA account, the city only allows those funds to be used for medical expenses. With the new, and it is a use it or lose it at the end of the fiscal year, so it does not roll over after September 30th. The transition to an HSA account will allow employees to use those funds for medical, dental, or vision, and they can also roll over any unused funds from year to year. Back to the 4 full-time additions. One is an audiovisual technician. That's a conversion from a part-time to a full-time position. 2 maintenance workers in parks. That will mainly, those positions will be for the CRA maintenance area that we do along the riverfront that we're going to be bringing in-house. And the addition of 1 recreation coordinator who will assist us with the creation of some internal events, some more activities for all age groups, youth, seniors, and everyone in between those 2 areas as well.
So, Brian, just one other thing before you go further. The 2 maintenance workers that are being put in, that's currently being paid to contractual companies to do that service for us. Now we're going to have that done in-house, and these 2 employees would cover that difference.
That is correct. We currently contract that work out in doing a cost analysis and kind of looking at what we're getting work-wise. We felt it's a better benefit to bring it in-house, and long-term it will save the city money. Short-term there is some capital costs that next year we will have to incur in regards to mowers, trucks, trailers, things that we don't currently have. But then in future years it will be a reduction in the cost for those positions. The operating budget is only a 2.1% increase overall. Almost every department had a small increase, and several departments did a great job with a little coaching and even went down in their operating budget. Now going on to the enterprise funds. So the golf course would be the first one. Draft is showing and I should state this, so this presentation was put together before our budget workshop on Friday, so there have been some adjustments that we're currently working on. One of them is the golf course. The draft is showing a revenue shortfall of $134,405. Staff is looking at our options on how to get that back, and we will have that utilizing some of the methods we talked in the budget workshop to get that back to a positive number and not a shortfall any longer.
So your anticipation is that you get that to zero, or?
Yeah, at least to zero, and then hopefully with some of the adjustments we talked about with some of the fees, get it to a positive number so that we can start increasing the maintenance that we're doing on the golf course for kind of capital projects and things that come up throughout the year.
Thanks, sir.
This is showing $100,000 is shown as a repayment to the general fund. Same $30,000 for the restaurant lease. Airport rent went up a little bit from $106,864 to $107,239, and then also paying back $36,991 in principal and interest on a $700,000 building fund loan. Airport. Property rental revenue expected to increase with the rental of Hangar D. Loans that are being repaid from discretionary sales tax fund, Hangar A and Hangar B, are being made, and you'll see they have the current balance shown is what they have as of September 30th of 2024 will be the balance owed on those. Grant matches from DST in 2025, $197,520 for the construction of taxiway golf, and $45,000 for the design of the terminal apron expansion. Then over the following 5 years, we're looking at $810,000 currently budgeted out of DST for the matching on taxiway golf, construction of taxiway golf apron, taxiway Bravo rehabilitation, and the construction of terminal apron expansion. Building department. Permit revenue continues at high levels. There is budgeted one less permit technician. That has a lot to do with kind of the transition of going from in-person application submittals to most of it's online now that they can pretty much do every permit application online. That transition has happened recently, so we're seeing, that we can make it work with one less. But that also position was kind of spread apart, a couple other positions in the department. And they are expecting a $36,000 principal and interest payment on the golf course loans, which are shown below that. ARPA funds, we're going to have everything obligated by December 31st, 2024, which is required. And we should be close to having it totally spent by that time as well, which isn't required until 2026. But I think we're pretty much well on our way with spending those funds here within this year to get that account closed out. Local option gas tax, we are projecting collections at 3.5% annual increases for future years. It's currently being used for road preservation and associated swell work as scheduled in the current paving management program. Discretionary sales tax fund, once again projecting a 3.5% annual increase for future years. It's being used for road reconstruction and associated swell work. Also funding MIS infrastructure, police vehicles and equipment, air conditioner replacements, Riverview Park improvements, dependent on our master plan, major construction vehicles and equipment, and matching funds for FAA and FDOT grants. CRA fund, operating expenditures. So audit fees, administration, working waterfront improvements, other facility maintenance, submerged land leases, consulting fees, the typical things that we have within that account. And then the second bullet there, landscaping will be transferred to being handled in-house. And then special funds were moved to the general fund last year as a requirement that could not be paid out of CRA. And then working waterfront through 26-27 is budgeted in their budget. And Central Avenue Catalyst site has been on the books and it's currently planned out to 27-28. Recreation Impact Fee Fund. This is where the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee has $20,000, which is $5,000 per zone, for improvements that are needed throughout the year that are not necessarily budgeted. We also have future playground improvements that are shown here. Next year will be Bryant Court Park. We're also going to have to move up Friendship Park. We're trying to work on funding for that at the current time. That playground's going to have to be removed here within the next few weeks, just due to its condition and the cost to repair it.
So that park is now closed, though, right?
Yes, Friendship Playground has been shut down. And then you got 25-26 is Hardy and Schumann, 26-27 Community Center, and in 27-28 Riverview Park. Once we get to 27-28, that will mean that all of our playgrounds within the city have been replaced within the last, once we're in 27-28, I think it'll be within the last 9 years. So that's kind of our rotational basis. Playgrounds in the current environment and the way things are, you're looking at getting 10 to 12 years maximum out of them. Projected 2025 fund balance, it will be at $102,376, provided that revenue estimates hold true. Stormwater Utility Fund, we are requesting personnel and operating accounts. Personnel and operating accounts are exceeding the revenue from the fees. We're requesting to add 5 full-time maintenance workers, and their capital includes a new crew truck and then slip lining or pipe replacement. And we will be requesting a rate increase in fiscal year 24-25, which is this year. Law Enforcement Forfeiture Fund can only be used for unbudgeted items. Specific items need city council approval, and they currently have a balance of $47,185. Parking in lieu fund, which we will be bringing something back to you all within the next couple meetings in regards to this fund, is used for providing additional parking. Currently has a balance of $116,514, and it is actively being paid into by a few businesses. Cemetery Trust Fund, half of sales on operations and maintenance, replacing mowers, a truck, and a trailer, adding a second well, and reimbursing $150,000 to general fund for the operations at the cemetery. Half of sales are expendable on expansions or cost incidental to adding future sites. Funds to fund columbarium niches in FY 26-27. I will take this opportunity to bring to your attention, you will see an item that probably be at the August City Council meeting. We are having some issues with the building there, and our recommendation is that we go out and have an engineer design a new building and move forward with construction of a new building in the near future. So that'll be coming to you all, and it is eligible underneath the expansion cost incidentals to adding future sites within the Cemetery Trust Fund.
What's the balance in that fund now? Do you know? You don't, I mean, I just want to see if there's enough in there to build the building.
I'm pretty sure there is.
You think you're okay, Ken, for that? All right.
Capital Improvement Program, $42.9 million allocated over 6 years, $11.1 million next year. $6.2 million next year will be funded by grants, which is a little bit, almost 56%. Largest items for next fiscal year, street work is a little bit over $3 million. Riverview Park improvements, which is dependent on the, obviously we received the $1.5 million grant. And so once that gets finalized, but then it's dependent on the Riverview Park master plan getting finalized. And we're hopeful to have that done by the end of the calendar year. And then a little bit over $1.2 million for Stonecrop drainage project. Certified taxable values, the total values increased a little bit over $214,576,057, or 10.29% above 2024. Additions account for $59,143,508, or 2.84% of the increase. Reassessments were $155,432,549, or 7.45% of the increase. Rolled back rate is 2.9859. We have, as mentioned prior in the budget workshop, we've used 3.1955, which is last year's millage rate for our draft budget. In order to go with the rolled back millage, it would require using $462,686 of reserves with the current draft budget. So this kind of just shows what the dollar value of the tax roll additions are. You can see in 2024, it's the second highest tax roll addition that we've had in the last 12 years. Below, but you can also see, you know, those additions are dropping, coming back down. We had a high last year of a little bit over almost $85 million. So this document here kind of just shows the different millage and affecting factors. It shows that the $462,686 shortfall, if we do not go with the 3.1955, once again, 3.1955 is the same as this current fiscal year's millage rate. It is shown as a 7.02% increase to our residents. Any questions on that?
Well, I just want to point out, Brian, that the 7.2% is not necessarily the increase that each residence will see on their property taxes. That's the difference between 2.9859 and 3.195.
Correct.
Right. So if you live in a homesteaded house, for example, the increase in your property value is limited to 3%. Same tax roll means you're going to see approximately a 3% increase in your taxes as opposed to 7.2%. Now, if you're a snowbird or if you not homesteaded your property, then the amount of your increase is going to depend on the value of your property as the property appraiser has established it. It could be much greater than 7.2%, but that's based on the value of the house. Because it's the millage rate we're talking about is the same exact one we had last year. So if property values had not increased by the tax assessor, there would have been no increase in taxes. I think it's important for people to understand that we're not mandating an increase in taxes. We're keeping our rate at the same level as last year, which I think from what I've seen so far, we're one of the few ad valorem taxing organizations in the county that's done that. So we are keeping it at the same level, and consequently there will be tax increases, but that's based on the increased value of the property, not based on our tax levy. Okay? And it's important for people to understand, and it's difficult to understand it because we're voting on it and we're saying 7.2%.
0.2.
But in reality, that's 7.2% between two bogus numbers. Unless you add the value of your property from the tax appraiser in there, you don't really know what that is. Okay. If your house is worth $100,000 more today than it was yesterday, and we keep the tax levy the same, you're going to pay more taxes. That's simple. And we haven't raised your taxes because we haven't raised your tax levy. Your property has raised your taxes.
So Ken does a great job with this chart here. That kind of just shows the difference from rollback in what a homeowner would pay dependent on their assessed value for their home. So it kind of shows, you know, the increase to their taxes based on their assessed value. So we started kind of at the $350,000 number and go all the way up to a $450,000 home with this chart. So this chart here also shows our millage setting for a 19-year history. We're at or below rollback 11 years, which is almost 58% of the time. And it just kind of, it shows that our proposed right now is to contain the millage at the same rate as last year. So other considerations as we're continuing to go through our budget process. Group insurance, property and liability costs have not set. We've not settled those yet. Those we're still waiting on rates and prices to come in, specifically on property and liability costs. Solid Waste Fund, which we discussed a little bit earlier, direction was to utilize reserves to cover the deficit. So we're keeping that in mind. Prices continue to increase, but how long will current economic levels continue? That's a little bit of a concern. Prices are going up, but how much longer can it be sustainable with what we're doing? Setting proposed millage for the trim notices at 3.1955 will be advertised as a 7.02% increase. Just want to make that known. And then exceeding the proposed millage is expensive and delays budget adoption if we were to go above what you said is the trim. So this slide here is, I just wanted to give you all some information. You all had asked staff to look into the cost associated with the addition of 2 police officers. Personnel costs would be approximately $182,000 annual. That's taking into account, benefits and everything needed personnel-wise at a starting salary of what we currently have. For new officers, equipment needed would be approximately $20,000 in general fund and $140,000 in discretionary sales tax. So options, if we were able to fill these additional positions, if it was to happen, utilize reserves to cover any realized deficit for 1 year with the realization we would need to fully fund in the FY26 general fund budget, or direct staff to look at other general fund cuts to allocate funding for these 2 positions. So I had some discussions with the chief, and he did provide me with some accurate information. And just to kind of give you a little bit of information on timelines, we currently have active officers is 19. That's 15 in the position of corporal, K-9, and officer, and 4 sergeants. Officers in training, there's 4. They should be completed by October. That's in training within the department. So they've completed the academy, they've completed the background check. They're out on the road with our field training officers right now, and they should be completed by October. Cadets in the academy, we currently have 2. Will graduate in October and should be done with our in-house training by February. Cadets enrolled in the academy is 2. 1 started this Monday and 1 starts August 19th. They will graduate 4 to 6 months later, depending on how the timeline works in the academy. That varies class to class, because if you deal with holidays or different timelines, I know the 4 officers that are currently in training, their academy lasted 6 months. And you have other ones that their academy is only 4 months. It just depends on how the schedule lays out. Conditional offers extended. We have 6. 1 is certified, 1 is in the academy, graduates next week, but background just started, and 4 are in the beginning stages of background process. So that kind of gives you some information on where all these are, the timeline that it takes. I mean, a realistic timeline from someone who is not certified, you're looking at it taking them, 10 months really before they're active and on the road. Because then I asked the chief this question earlier in regards to how long does the background process take? It's a very detailed background process that our police department does. And I think he told me 2 to 3 months just earlier today, or 2 to 4 months, one of the 2, is how long our background process takes. Now, some of that can be done concurrently while they're in the academy, but a lot of it has to be done beforehand, because we want to make sure that we're checking these people and making sure they're going to be successful. So with all that being said, I think, when we look at increasing it from 31 to 33 positions, my major concern is making sure that we have the funding going forward within the budget. Getting to that number will be that'll be the work that the police department has to do with their recruiting efforts and getting those done. And but there's definitely a need, and speaking with the chief, there is a need for those officers. If we receive the grant funding from FIND for the police boat, that's going to even increase that, because we're going to have some Marine Patrol officers out on the boat on a consistent basis. And we do just have needs on the shifts currently. So I'm in agreement at this point with the 2 additional. I just don't want to push the funding off completely to next year, and then all of a sudden we come to next year at budget time, and we're like, well, where are we gonna find the funding from? That's all my only concern with that.
Okay. It sounds to me like I mean, right now, if I look at the pipeline and the active officers, there's 33, basically, between the people in the pipeline, if I add those numbers up correctly. There's 33. You're probably going to have a minimum of 2 of those pipeline people who don't actually make it to street duty, for various reasons as they come through the process. So, I think personally that we can increase that number from 31 to 33 and provide the 2 additional staffing without increasing the 24-25 budget by a dramatic amount, because they're not going to fill these 2 additional positions between now and July of next year. It's just not going to happen. So, I mean, your indication that you're talking about $182,000 annually for equipment and so forth for the officers. I mean, we don't have to buy that today. You don't need to buy a car for an officer that's not going to be here till July of next year. I understand your position about if we don't add it in this year's budget, the numbers aren't going to be, they're going to be funky next year. But I think that I personally think that we can add the 2 positions. I believe that those 2 additional officers will help not only with the lack of cutting down some overtime, but also with the possibility of some staff not having to work the shifts that they're working and so forth. And I just don't know that it's going to add, $200,000 or $300,000 to our budget for 23 to 24 or 24, 25. So I'm in favor of adding those, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. That's something we've got to find. If I understand the way the process needs to really work, that's something we've got to do when we do the final budget approval. Tonight we're talking about the millage. You're not thinking you need to increase the millage levy from what you proposed to do that, are you?
I mean, that's your all's decision. Okay. I think we can, the existing millage, the millage rate that we're at is a workable number. Okay. Based on, but I just want to say on the record, my concern with ensuring that we get the funding looking forward to next year. Okay. I don't want to overcommit this year, and then next year we have to do cuts somewhere in order to be able to fund these 2 positions. Okay. Because
if I go through what you just taught, it looks like the 4 that's in training are on the street sometime around 10/1/24. You're going to have those people on the street. You got 2 in the academy. They're not going to be able to be on the street until February or March of 25.
You're correct. We're looking at February.
By the time assuming they bounce out of the academy correctly and quick and so forth. 2 people that are enrolled in the academy, they're not going to be able to be on the street until probably sometime around July, August of 25, because they're just now enrolled. It doesn't say that they're actually involved in doing the academy work, okay? And then the 6 offers that are extended, those are people that the financial need for those people is not going to hit our budget until 25, 26. They just made an offer to them. So what I would submit is that we don't have a need to budget for 31 officers, because we don't have 31. We've got 19 plus 2 or 3 who may hit the street during this budget. I mean, I'm thinking the way, I mean, you don't budget for things that you propose to have or project to have. You budget for things that you have. Okay, so now, I find it not accurate that if we don't increase our budget, we can't say that 33 is the number of officers that they should have.
I don't think I said that.
Okay. So if you didn't say that, that's what I heard you say. I'm sorry.
I provided you with the numbers you requested.
Okay.
I didn't say we have to increase the budget today to be able to fund it. I said we have to increase the budget next year to be able to fund it. And I don't want to get caught next year with being in the situation of, well, now I've got to eliminate positions somewhere else in order to fund these 2 positions. Okay. I want to be clear and open up front that these are the costs associated with it, that we will have to be in consideration next year, because I think we're going to have them full. I have full faith in our recruiting efforts. I mean, they've done a great job. We sat here last year and the numbers were a lot worse. And so they're continuing to do a really good job over in the police department, and I have full faith that we're going to get full staffed, and it's going to be, we're going to need those dollars.
Okay.
And I mentioned in a budget workshop that you're correct. So some of these are dollars that are allocated that we aren't necessarily going to spend, but we will use a portion of those funds to cover the overtime, excess overtime for officers covering those. And in the meeting the other day, I know we mentioned, well, those numbers don't completely show in the operations, but some of that overtime coverage is coming from other departments. Detective area is coming into operations, so we didn't look at it full scale. We only looked at operations, but you've got detectives, you've got administrative staff that are working overtime that is having to pull from those numbers as well.
Okay.
And we're paying the officers who are in the academy, but at a reduced rate.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so, okay. I think the question about the number between what is considered full staffing for the patrol division, whether it's 31 or 33, is not necessarily part of what we're doing tonight. I mean, I would submit that it needs to be 33, and that's what the management of that division has indicated that they really need. So I think we should support them by giving them 33 people.
Agreed.
And how they get to that 33, it's a really crazy process because of the way they recruit. I mean, you recruit somebody before they go to the academy, it's 6 months before you know they're going to even make it out of the academy or not. And then you have to put them through internal vetting. I'm kind of surprised that they don't do background checks as part of the academy stuff, so when they come out of the academy, they passed a background check. But and it's terrible for me to think that we're going to pay somebody $15+ an hour for 6 months to go through the academy and then fail a background check. That's kind of concerning to me. So that's maybe something we might think about.
Yeah, and I said that they do some of it concurrently. So before they go to the academy, they've completed a certain percentage of the background check.
All right.
And then concurrently, while they're in the academy, they're still continuing to work on it. It's only if they don't start the academy with the city of Sebastian, if they go on their own, well, then the background process kind of gets added to the end.
Okay, all right.
But if it's before, then it's concurrently.
Okay. Are you going further? You got more? Okay.
So staff request that we set a proposed millage for it should have been fiscal year 25 at 3.1955. And this should be done with a motion to adopt the proposed millage at 3.1955 if that is the consensus of council.
Ken, you did a good job preparing for this. All right, council, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve to adopt the proposed millage at 3.1955.
There's a recommended motion in the agenda that I think we should follow because of this. It's adopt a motion to set the proposed millage at 3.1955.
I will pull my motion back and read the recommended. I will, Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adopt the motion to set the proposed millage at 3.1955 for fiscal year 2025 and direct the city manager to execute and transmit the required forms.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address this? Seeing none. Council, let's have a roll call, please.
Whoa. We done
You want to
talking
talk?
about this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, talk.
I thought, the budget workshop on Friday was very eye-opening. And I thought, I heard you talking about the police officer, which I agree with. But I thought the Public Works, Lee, gave a great presentation. Because my concern is the roads. And we were looking at the roads, and when we did that last, road assessment, our roads are deteriorating. And he was looking at a way, I think it was 2029, if we were able to do the repaving and the reconstruction, it would save $600,000. Now, I know we don't have all that money, but I think we could at least do the road repaving that was scheduled for in the 2029, because ultimately that would be probably road reconstruction. And I think, we gave Brian a little extra last year, and I haven't heard from anybody who hasn't. The work has been done in this city in the past year. There has been a lot that has been done. And I would like, and again, this is only the trim, the truth and millage going out. And whatever we send out, we can't go higher. We can always go lower because we're going to have several budget workshops as we go. And that's where we can get into a lot more of the minutia. But I would like to see us even go higher. This is just setting the trim, and looking at 3.3 is what I was thinking. And again, we'll have budget workshops and can knock it down and everything along those lines.
Amelia, got any comments about that?
I think the number was 800,000, Lee?
And Ken, $880,000 is roughly what millage percentage?
While Ken's doing that, I mean, also in the budget that we discussed, budget workshop, we were discussing what is a reasonable amount to have in the reserve fund. And I think we were over, so, waiting to hear that. So I think if we set it a little higher, because we might look at, I never like to crack the piggy bank, but we might have excessive dollars in there.
I'll ask, Brian, when I ask you or talk to you about seeing if we could come up with a breakdown of the reserves and what are the funds that need to be allocated to that? Have you had an opportunity to think about that?
We have not.
So we'll talk about that when we do.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I asked Brian to look at was to take the reserve amount and then start subtracting things like Hurricane 1, Hurricane 2, fund to pay for staff that leaves, time, and so forth, and get down to a bottom line of if this is what we have to have in there. And now what's left at the bottom of that is money that at the council's discretion, you might want to use for something like emergency road projects or whatever, but we at least know what are the required amounts within that bucket. Right now, I don't know that. I know that by policy, we have a requirement to have a $5 million reserve. That's by policy. Until we change that budget policy, it's still $5 million. But we've got $8-some million in there. And without seeing that breakdown, I really don't know how much of that is funds that we know that we're going to have to spend or potentially spend. I mean, if we get hit with 3 hurricanes this year, which is entirely possible if what everybody's saying, and they're not major, massive monsters, we're probably looking at $4 million or so worth of expenses we're going to have to fund, hoping that FEMA reimburses or waiting for the FEMA reimbursement to come through. So I think it's important to see that before we start talking about that. I've heard there was conversation, for example, I thought very well presented conversation by one of the members of the Budget Review Committee about, we're talking about all kinds of things and people are having a rough time. Maybe we should fund that $300,000 deficit by not raising taxes, but by funding it out of the reserves. I don't know if there's enough money in the reserves to do that, whether that idea fits well or not until we see that breakdown. I do think we need to rethink that, and we need to rethink that before we redo our budget policy, and we need to make that number accurate to what we really think it needs to be in the budget policy. I don't think that, it's the same thing I talk about other stuff. If a government has money in the budget, they will spend it. And I'm not saying that negatively, Brian, about anything. It's just that something will come up and we'll say, oh, we've got extra money in DST, we're going to pay for that or whatever. So what I'm saying is that, we need to get that reserve account to where we think it really needs to be, and then recognize that if there's money there that's left over, there might be good things like streets that we can do with that money, that we can do ahead of money and save money. If we can save $80,000 or $800,000 by doing $1 million worth of work, that's a great savings, and that's worth doing, but we have to have the $1 million to do that. So. Anybody else got anything to say? Ken, did you?
Calculating.
He's still calculating.
Yeah, I was just figuring you'd have to increase from the 3.1955 about 12% to generate the additional $880,000.
Okay, so we'd have to raise it by 12%, which is, I'd have to add, there's decimals involved in this one. Where's that slide rule when I need it?
Be about 3.6 mils.
Okay. Council?
Well, I can't see. I think, Brian, don't we have a lot of other stuff that we spoke about that's slated to come out of the reserves? So if we keep pulling from the reserves, that 9 million is not going to be 9 million before long.
Well, what I'm hearing Councilmember Partland say is, instead of raising the trim rate to 3.195, let's raise it to 3.6. In anticipation in our budget process, we might decide to spend that extra money to do this road work. Now, that's going to be advertised as probably, what, a 12 or 13% raise in taxes. I'm just guessing at what the difference is between 3.195 and 3.6 as it relates to the rollback. So we're talking about increasing, well, telling people it's not 7.2 increase, it's 12% or 11% or something like that increase. But as far as spending the reserves, I mean, I would personally say that we don't touch what's in our current reserves until we get some information to staff about exactly what we need to fund potentially out of that, and then we make decisions about reserves. We shouldn't touch that reserve account until we see that information. And I don't know whether the $7.9 million, because I think that when you look at it, it was 8 point something at the top, and then when you did some stuff, notes to it, it dropped down to about 7.5 or something like that. So
One thing we do each year is we adopt our financial policies and include them as part of the budget. We talk about the $5 million being a target for declared disasters.
Yes.
Or we just talking about getting by until we get the FEMA reimbursements or insurance reimbursements or can rebuild. Because what happens is you're not only talking about the expense of the recovery, you got the overtime, you've got the effect on the revenues too, because people aren't using, maybe the power's not there for them to use, but they're not paying a higher power bill either. So you've got to factor all that in. We keep $275,000 in addition to the $5 million for the renewal and replacement account. Seldom use it all, but it's there in case we did have a big occurrence if something had to be repaired or replaced. We talk about shortfalls in intergovernmental revenues. I mean, it could not be a disaster to us. It could be something nationwide or statewide that affects the economy such that we look at a drop in revenues. And lastly, we reserve for payments of employees that terminate and they get large payouts. We set aside about $389,000. The total of those 4 points is about $6.2 million. So yes, when we talk about we've got like $8.1 million projected as reserves, it seems like a lot, but a lot, I mean, these are just things we can sit down and speculate on.
Yeah.
What if they all happen at the same time and they're more severe than this? I mean, it's like buying insurance. I mean,
Right.
I would just be against a policy where you say, well, we're going to fund a position, and then as Brian was pointing out, if you don't fund it fully with the worst case scenario, you end up the next year with a deficit going into the budget balancing struggles. So just my 2 cents.
Yeah. I just don't see any sense in putting money into a funded budget for something you're not going to spend. You're not projecting to spend it. In the case of the 2 police officers, their hiring practice is such that we're not going to spend that money in this budget cycle to hire now. So if we say that their staffing level is 33, we're not saying that we have to fund 33 officers October 1st. We don't. And I have a hiccup with putting money into a budget that we know we're not going to spend.
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify something?
Yeah.
So in the presentation on these police officer discussion, because it keeps coming up, the options that were provided by staff was to utilize reserves to cover any realized deficit for 1 year with the realization we would need to fully fund in FY26, or the second option was to direct staff to look at other general fund cuts to allocate funding for these 2 positions for the realized deficit. We were never asking to fund 100% in FY '25. I just want to clarify that.
Option one sounds great.
I just want to clarify because it keeps coming up.
I believe option one covers what the mayor's concern is, and but yet helps get it into the budget and started. And if God, hey, if it'd be wonderful if we had to fund all these positions next year, that means we have a full police department, and then we'll deal with it, and reserves can make it up if we get to that point. But
Okay,
yeah,
we
I'm
have
fine
a
with option
we have a motion on the floor to establish the trim millage rate at 3.1955. Councilmember McPartlin has raised the issue of increasing that, and I think Mr. Kilgore came up with a number like 3.6 in order during the final budget process to potentially fund additional street work, because there is an indication that we can save a considerable amount of money by doing more work this year as opposed to waiting until next year. What's the feeling in the council about that? And if so, do we have a withdrawal of the motion on 3.1955, or do we have someone that would like to make an amendment to that motion?
I'd like to hear discussion first.
Sorry?
I would like to hear discussion on the idea.
Yeah, I'm asking
from
for
the others
discussion.
first,
I'm asking for discussion.
before this
So
motion
anybody
be
want to
changed.
discuss that? You want to talk first?
Can
You
we
know,
talk?
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
can-
please,
Can
go.
we talk to Lee or Karen a little bit about this? Because I don't know if we have to go all in. I know they wanted to not rush, but they had like a set schedule to accomplish this to like shave a year. And I don't know how that impacts
Well, let's be
the
honest.
money.
Every couple of years, the cost of doing it goes way up.
That
It's just-
too.
So the faster we get it done,
Right.
the cheaper it can be.
Exactly.
Okay, did you have questions for Lee?
Yeah, so Lee, can you kind of explain again the money involved to accomplish this goal to potentially save $880,000?
So it's a little more complex. Good evening, Council.
Yeah.
So we're using local option gas tax, and we're also using DST funding.
Mhm.
So we have, what we're finding out in the roads currently now, there's some, since the assessment was done a few years ago, what we're seeing is that some roads that were preservation are now going to full depth reconstruction.
Right.
Because they're getting more use and more abuse. So looking at the year that we currently have that goes all the way to 29, if we'd wait that long, those more roads that are preservation are going to be more towards full depth reconstruction, which is more of a cost. We'd have to look at the roadways that we want to do, and it's not necessarily doing 29s this year, but if we expedite and we move some things around to do some preservation work either sooner or full depth reconstructions, we'd have to look at the funding on that, how that would work, because they're coming out of two separate funds. But by expediting 24 and 25 across the board, we just looked at it, it was a savings of about $880,000.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Kind of.
And how much money do you need to save that?
Yeah.
There's approximately $3 million.
Okay, see, we're not going to get that no matter what we do.
No.
Yeah,
But the thing is, if we decide to do it in 2 weeks from now and we set the millage at 3.19,
We're not
we
even
can't
close.
increase it.
Yeah.
We can always go lower. And again, we're going to have several budget hearings, and it's kind of like we're talking about a house. So we had this house and we neglected it for several years, and then all of a sudden, it's like in a house, you let the roof go and the plumbing go, next thing you know, you get a mess on your hands. And I think the additional money that we gave Brian last year, I think he did a yeoman's job with that money, because again, you can see what got done. Schumann was how many years looking at that? That looks beautiful. Wimbrow, the long way, and also doing the swales at the same time. I think the money's being put to good use. And I think a lot of the residents look at it and they see this work that's being done. Yes, it increases taxes, but it's being done as opposed to falling apart.
There's no way, I don't believe, that we could increase the millage on a trim by a sufficient amount to raise an additional $3 million. Because we're talking about raising that millage on the trim to 5 something in order to raise $3 million. Because you were talking about, increasing it by 10% or 12% to get $800,000. So to go to $3 million, we're talking about increasing it by 40 or 50%.
Because of our history on setting the millage and going so often with the rollback rate, the state allows us to adopt what they call a maximum millage increase. And in our case, it's over 5% that we can, I mean, five mills that we could go to.
Yeah, but to raise $3 million, we'd have to go to 5 mills, or we might not get the full 3.5 million. I think that's what he said, 3.5 or something like that. We might not get the full 3.5 million even at 5. And we're talking about telling our citizens, I mean, I would only do that by referendum. I wouldn't do that by a vote of the council personally. Yeah. I would not vote for it as a vote of the council. That'd have to be a referendum to do something like that.
And you would have to have a
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't increase.
Vote.
I wouldn't vote yes to increase this millage rate to 5 without a referendum of some type or another, because you know, that's just too much, too big.
And as it is, you guys are looking at the road plan and assessing to try to see the best course of action at this point anyway.
Yeah.
Correct, and it also affects the swales, all
Right.
the driveways, the road work. So there's extensive work that needs to be done.
Yes.
I mean, you know, Bob, that might be, and I understand that we're kicking the can again, but that might be something that we might even honestly think about some form of a referendum process for at the next election, to ask the citizens about this kind of thing. But I don't know that we can raise that kind of money by changing this millage rate from 3.195 to something else, to 5 or whatever.
I wasn't looking going that high. I said, take it 3.3, Ken comes out at 3.6 will go a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not looking at going to 4 or going to 5.
Yeah.
And again, I agree with you, that would have to be put out to referendum.
Yeah.
But again, we're just setting what goes on the trim notice, okay? So whatever you're comfortable with. If you're all comfortable with 3.19, I just thought sitting in the workshop, I mean, it was eye-opening.
Yes.
Where we are and the roads. And again, the cost of everything has gone up. You're talking right now, what'd he say, 10 or 12% for 3.6? Everything's gone up more than that.
Yep. Okay.
Discussion?
Help? Anybody have anything to say? Mr. Jones?
No, not really. I'm looking, the last time we were at 3.6 was way back in 2016. So, and I think based on the budget workshop and everything that we're looking at, I think 3.1955 it gets us operating where we need to be. So for the next fiscal year, so I can't see going further than 3.1955. That's already a 7.02% increase already. So.
And that's already in a motion, and if anyone would like to add an amendment to that motion, or if the maker of that motion, I think was Councilmember Nunn, was it you, would like to withdraw that motion, then fine. If not, we do already have a motion for 3.1955. So, do I hear an amendment?
Nope. We have a motion and a second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to call a question. Let's have a roll call, please.
Mayor Dodd,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
No.
and Councilmember Nunn.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Okay, first quarter financial report.
Okay, under the circumstances, we did present the first quarter and second quarter reports to the Budget Review Committee a week ago Monday. The first quarter, there's only one adjustment actually that the council needs to acknowledge, and that is one charge to the R&R account. We presented all the other adjustments either the city council or the city manager approved during the quarter. I would point out on the summary of general fund, a couple of departments are higher, but that one is the city clerk's office because of the election process and paying for that. And the other is a non-departmental that includes some of our insurance payments. Where I mentioned the 8.1 projected reserves, it's actually looking like we might have 8.2 million by the end of this year if all goes well. Okay. As far as the enterprise fund and the stormwater fund, everything is fine except for the golf course. Basically, we didn't carry forward as much as we anticipated at the beginning of this fiscal year. So beginning at the first quarter, we were short of what we had projected as a carry forward. The other funds, you're fine. We'll give you a lot of detail about individual account categories, but the capital projects report is also showing all the capital projects that we have on our plates, and give you a quarterly investment report and present to you the amount of interfund loans that we have. The rest of the report is the accomplishments from all the departments that's been compiled by each one of them. And I would ask for a motion to accept the first quarter report.
Does anybody got any questions for Mr. Kilgore? Then I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number R-24-34.
Second.
Anyone from the public like to address this? Don't think so. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Dixon,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
and Mayor Dodd.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, resolution R-2435, which is accepting the second quarter financial report.
Okay, the highlights of the second quarter is also that there was only one adjustment made that needs to have the city council's approval, and that related to my retirement and the payouts of my unused leaves.
Oh, that's the reason I didn't want you to retire.
And that's the reason we need to set some of our reserve money aside for retirement.
That's right.
Actually, we've changed some of the policies too, which will help. But,
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kilgore on the second quarter financial report? It's pretty self-explanatory.
Pretty
so.
straightforward, yes.
And I do like the format. It's getting more and more information in here, which is good.
I'll move approval of resolution number R-24-35.
Second.
All right, that motion and a second. Anyone from the public like to address that? Seeing none, then let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd,
Yes.
and Vice Mayor Dixon.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to awarding ITB 2414 to Passage Island Construction for Hangar D office space build-out. Would the staff like to make a presentation?
Mr. Mayor, council members, this is basically our third attempt at this. We went out originally under a RFP process and could not reach the budget numbers that we needed to make this project actually work within the grant amount that we had. So we instead changed our tactics. We asked the tenant to develop a set of architectural plans so that we could focus strictly on the plans and eliminate some of the cost involved in the design process. Thank you, sir. And by doing so, we cut down what the anticipated cost would be significantly. And then going into the process, because the time had taken so long to get this project started, and the tenant is eager to get their business moved and open and operating, they began to do some work in the south office on their own, and it complicated the bid process, and we split it off so that we were only concentrating on the north offices to eliminate doing the entire building.
We will return to you with a separate bid process that's about to go out that will focus the scope just on what remains to be done on the south office. So what we bring before you tonight for Passage Island construction is to proceed with doing the work on the north set of offices at the price that you see there, and let us get the project started.
Okay, we're talking about spending $295,000 on the north office, and that leaves, within the grant dollar amounts, that leaves $105,000. Is there an indication that that's going to be sufficient to do the south office?
Well, we feel it is at this point because of the layout and the design. The south office is actually a smaller office, but it is also not intended to be fully built out like the north office is with multiple rooms. It's going to have a large open area that will consist of simulators, 2 to 3 aircraft simulators. And they're going to leave the ceiling open and reduce all the necessary walls and electric and all that.
And there's nothing in the grant that says that we can't split this or anything like that?
No, they consider the entire project as one building, one project.
Okay. All right. And if we can't do the south office for the $105,000, are we going to be on the hook for the difference because we've agreed to do this within our lease agreement with them?
The agreement with the tenant is the mutual understanding that they cover the city's 20% portion of the grant. They are being very adherent to the budget that they have to work with because they don't want to spend any more than necessary. But the 20% of that grant is being paid by the tenant up front, and anything above and beyond that is the obligation of the tenant. There will be no cost to the city.
Okay, so if it comes out that we have to have $140,000 to do the south office, they're obligated to pay the additional $35,000?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, I'm fine. That's all. That was my question. Thank you. Council, what's your pleasure? Questions?
You asked them all.
Make
Okay.
the motion to approve ITB 2414 to Passes Island Construction.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Anyone from the public like to address this? Seeing none. Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Okay. This is item number G, which is the purchase of one John Deere, I guess it's more than just a John Deere tractor. City staff.
Debater.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We're requesting the approval to purchase one John Deere P85 T-Tier mid-size excavator at the price of $171,213.25. The cooperative purchase is under Florida Sheriff's Association contract FSA 23-EQU21.0 from Dobbs Equipment transmittal quote, contract quote. Currently, our excavator that we currently are using is exceeded its end of life. We've put an exorbitant amount of money into the excavator. It's failed again. So it exceeded its life expectancy. We're currently renting a machine at $4,000 a month to keep providing services to the residents and stay on top of the ditch work that we currently have in front of us. This was budgeted in FY25. We're just asking to expedite it in this year's budget. And currently it was budgeted for $173,000 in FY25. And I reached out to Dobbs to see if they had anything on the shelf. They do have one coming in. We'll have it available at the end of this month if you guys were to approve this today, and that's at roughly a $2,000 savings.
Okay. And we're going to fund this out of the discretionary sales tax reserves, and then in the 24-25 budget, are we going to put that money back? Is that what the intent is?
So our plan will be to actually just remove it from the FY25 budget.
Okay.
We'll show it in this year. It'll utilize the reserves this year.
Okay, so good. All right. Any questions? Anyone from the public would like to address this? Seeing none. Any questions, council, comments? What's your pleasure?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, city attorney matters.
Nothing to add today?
City manager matters.
Just a couple things. So, Mr. Mayor, I know during the meeting you had asked how much money we had in the cemetery trust fund that could be used for the building. In the non-endowed, which is the capital that we can use for expansion or projects such as a new building, as of the end of fiscal year 23-24, the ending fund balance will be $705,768. So we do have sufficient funds in there. Next item I have is, I mentioned at our budget workshop last Friday that we have a budget meeting scheduled for Wednesday, August 21st to discuss the operating budget and our CIP. However, we added that in there kind of in conjunction with our budget workshop. So I wanted to see if you all had thought about whether we need to have that meeting on the 21st or if we can cancel that one.
And it's just for the CIP, right?
It was just a discussion about the operating budget that we have and also capital improvement projects as well.
Okay, are you going to have a revision, the next revision to the budget by then?
We will, by the 21st, we may not have everything revised that we discussed, but we can do our best if you want to have that meeting to be able to see a revision. Otherwise, we would have it at the first meeting in September.
I mean, I discretion of the council, but I personally would prefer that we have the next revision before we get together and talk about it. So, you know, so what do you guys think?
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So we'll have them by September, right?
Yeah, we would have it ready by the first meeting in September for the first reading.
We can do that, maybe cancel the 21st and then do it. Does everybody agree with that? Cancel on 21st
Yes.
meeting and maybe do it after, when we get the thing revised? Okay.
Okay. And then just a reminder, I will be out of the office next week, and as I typically do, I will send you all a memo notifying you who I will appoint as the acting city manager while I'm out. And a little portion of that will be out of the country, so that person will be needed at that time. So, thank you all.
Okay. City clerk matters.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, I'm first on this. I sent the mayor a email about the Roaring Twenties
mayor?
Gala.
Which man? You?
I mean, I'm
Mayor.
sorry, I sent the city manager an email
Okay.
about the Roaring Twenties Gala, and Councilmember Jones also brought that up at our budget workshop. And since we really can't do a consensus at a workshop, I wanted to bring it up, and I know there was a consensus at the time for him to do that, so I'm asking the council to reaffirm that at an official meeting, so it gives him the opportunity to say he got directives from council to do that. So does anyone have any issues with him working forward with that with the chamber?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you. So that's taken care of. For any person out there who managed to watch the whole 8 hours of our budget workshop, I congratulate you. It was a nice day, and I think we accomplished a lot. The one thing that, and if you are interested, it's on YouTube in 2 sections, and you can actually go out there and fast forward through it to the sections you're interested in or whatever, but it was a really good presentation by our staff, by the department heads who report to the city manager on their budgets, on the things that they're asking for and what they're doing with that money. And it was eye-opening in a lot of cases. I think it's important for the residents. I hear a lot of people complain about the stuff we do. You know, get more involved. If you're interested in how we spend the money, take a look at this stuff. And I think it was a very good thing. I want to thank the city manager and the city staff for the effort they put into that. I knew it wasn't easy for them to do that. It took a lot of work. And sometimes in our conversation up here, it sounds like that we're at odds. We're really not at odds. So it's primarily an attempt to try to get the understanding through and to make it work. And I think that workshop and the one we're going to have next year is in the process of making that happen. So I'm very thankful for that to take place. All right, Councilmember Jones, you're next.
Nothing, sir. I'm ready to go eat.
I look at the look on your wife's face, and I think we're all in trouble for being here this late. Okay, Councilmember McPartland.
Nothing.
Councilmember Nunn.
I promise to be fast. When people are concerned about Habitat for Humanity and we hear they give houses to poor people, they gave me this list before they left. the people that they've put in houses, nurses, lots, home health care workers, bank tellers, teachers, accounts payable people, IRSC professor, several Piper employees, his Publix cashier, a manager at one of the local smaller stores, an Ocean Grill waitress, hospice nurse, a nonprofit workers, and 4 retired seniors, and others. I say that just so you understand, these are the people you see every day and meet every day and work and are possibly treating you or checking you out. So these aren't people that are broke and have no money. They're people that have income that just need a help, just need a hand up, as it would be. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Vice Mayor.
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing? All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the good of the order, we're adjourned.